Hi everyone and welcome to Grammar School. I'm your instructor, Terry Ann. Today's topic will be comparatives and superlatives. So for today's class, we'll firstly go through some background information about adjectives. We'll talk about the rule for using comparatives and superlatives. Then we'll go through some examples and then you'll do some exercises. Are you ready? Let's start with the background information. What is an adjective? Right, an adjective is a word that is used to describe nouns. For example, this is a cold room. So here the adjective is cold. However, when we are comparing nouns, we use comparatives or superlatives based on the number of things that we are comparing. So if we're comparing two things, we use the comparative form, and if we're comparing three or more things, then we use the superlative form. Now, there are two options when comparing adjectives. You can either use the ER or EST form or more and most. But when do we use the first and when do you use the second? We must consider two things. One, the number of things being compared, and two, the number of syllables in the word. So what is the rule for using ER and EST or more and most? Let's find out. The first thing we must consider is how many syllables do we have in the word? If there is one syllable, it's pretty simple. We always add ER or EST. However, if there are two syllables in the word, it gets a little bit more complicated. If the word has two syllables and ends with Y or W, we add ER or EST. However, if the word has two syllables and does not end with Y or W, then we add more or most. And it's also very simple for words with three or more syllables because we always add more or most. Let's look at some examples. So as I said earlier, there are two things you must consider: the number of things being compared and the number of syllables in the word. If the word has one syllable, such as hot, if we're comparing two things, we say hotter. But if we're comparing three or more things, we say hottest. There is actually one exception to this rule. The word fun actually has one syllable, but we only say more fun or most fun. And I think it's because if we were to say funner and funnest, it could be easily confused with funny, funnier, or funniest. If the word has two syllables and ends with Y, such as pretty, we say pretty, prettier, prettiest. If it ends with W, such as shallow, we say shallow, shallower, or shallowest. But if the word has two syllables and does not end with a Y or a W, we say jealous, more jealous, most jealous. And finally, if the word has three or more syllables, we say beautiful, more beautiful, or most beautiful. Can you think of any words with three syllables that we would use more or most beautiful? Yes, intelligent also is one. Wonderful is also one. There are so many words like this. As with any language, there are always exceptions to the rule. And today I'm going to talk about 5 exceptions in the English language. The first one is good. The comparative form of good is better, and the superlative form is best. So we say good, better, best. The second exception is the word bad. Can we say badder? No. We say bad, worse, worst. The third exception is far. And for the comparative form, we can either say farther if we're referring to a physical distance or further if we're referring to a figurative distance. And then for the superlative form, we would say farthest or furthest. The fourth exception is little. For the comparative form, we would say less. This bottle has less water than that one. And finally, least if we're comparing 3 or more things. The last exception is much. If you're comparing 2 things, you say more. So this mug holds more coffee than that one. But this thermos holds the most coffee of all the containers that we have. Are you ready for some examples? Okay, let's examine the following passage which contains some comparatives and superlatives. I am from a beautiful island in the Caribbean, but I live in Canada. Let me compare the two. Quebec is bigger than Jamaica. However, Jamaica is warmer than Quebec. Notice that both words have one syllable. Big has one syllable, so we say bigger. And warm also has one syllable, so we say warmer. The food in Jamaica is tastier than the food in Quebec, but Quebec has more variety than Jamaica. Tasty has 2 syllables and ends with a Y, so we say tastier than. And variety has more than 3 syllables, so we say more variety. On one hand, Jamaica is the friendliest place to live in the Western Hemisphere. On the other hand, Quebec is the safest place to live in North America. Of course, these are not facts, but merely opinions. Friendly ends with a Y, so we change the Y to I and add EST. And safe has 1 syllable, so we add EST. Please note that there are some key words when using the comparative and superlative forms. Whenever we use the comparative form, we always use than after the adjective. So these strawberries are sweeter than the ones I had yesterday. And with the superlative form, we always use the before the adjective. So this is the best pie I have ever tasted. The best. Let's now do some exercises. Complete the following table using the appropriate comparative and superlative forms. So the words are healthy, narrow, amazing, nice, and intelligent. For this second exercise, you must use the words in the brackets to complete each of the following sentences. Number 1, today is than yesterday. Use the adjective cool. Number 2, these shoes are than yours. Use the adjective comfortable. Number 3, this is the day of the year. Use the adjective long. Number 4, he is the person I know. Use the adjective active. And finally, this road is narrow than the bridge. Use the adjective narrow. And that's it for today. Please do the quiz to check your answers and ensure that you have answered all the questions correctly. Until next time, I'm Terry Ann. See you.